Hello, and welcome back to Trashbug Toy Reviews. Today, as promised, we are taking a look at one of my new favorites from the Transformers Studio series. It is their Sideswipe from Revenge of the Fallen. This guy is unbelievably incredible. I love the figure so much. And I actually just rewatched Revenge of the Fallen the other day. The movie is not great, but it's not as bad as I remember it being, and man, there's a lot of Sideswipe in that. When I was younger, I don't know why, but I didn't register. He is in that movie, and it's really cool to see him on screen doing some stuff. But let's hop right into things. Let's just start it off with a little bit of the history today. This version of the character, it seems like, is a lot more based off of the older cartoons. I haven't seen any of them. I grew up with Armada, where he was this spunky new recruit and was kind of a passable character. He had a little bit of depth, but it just wasn't anything that appealed deeply to me when I was younger. But this is more of like the warrior that you got with the older cartoons, and it seems like what they often do with this character in canon. He's super fucking cool. I don't even know what else I can really say about Sideswipe other than he is so cool. He's one of the more interesting characters in the movie just because you see with the Decepticons, they take on these more unconventional, more monstrous forms a lot of the time. Sideswipe is one of the few Autobots that hardly monstrous, but he's got the wheelie legs, you know, very much like the RC twins were the extreme of this, where all three of them had these kind of crazy designs that I really liked when I was younger. Sideswipe is just basically the full-size version of that, where he rolls around on his two wheels, he's got his blade arms, he's got kind of like wings. He's a really cool Autobot design. I'm not going to go super deep into the history beyond that. Again, my experience was really just with the one cartoon, so let's just get right into the review. So for those coming back, as a reminder, or anyone new to the channel, I look at three core categories when I'm reviewing figures. We look at the sculpt and details, we look at the color and paint applications, and finally into the articulation and the posing in the case of more static figures. Sideswipe is absolutely not in that. He's more in the former category of being highly articulated. So anything beyond that as far as accessories and things might add to it just depending on how good they are, or take away from it for things like poor construction of the figure. Let's get right into the first section though with the details and the sculpting. So just starting here with the robot mode for Sideswipe, you can see here his arms are beautifully sculpted. He's got the wheels on his arms as you saw in the film, as well as these beautiful blade arms, which he had used to kill poor Sideways after about 2 seconds of screen time. Poor guy. Moving down here though to the chest, you can see he's got these parts of the car that sort of compress to form this really cool chest piece, and again you see that really clearly in the film. I love the way they did his head as well. It's nice and detailed, and you do get a lot of shots at the head, so it's something that like you do see in the film. You do definitely want to see that nicely detailed out, and they just nail it with this. Going down here to the body, you can see again just all these mechanical and robotic pieces wonderfully sculpted out. Right down to the legs. You do get a couple of these hollowed out pieces. I don't love them, but again, you kind of see this in every Transformers piece, so I do try to take it in stride a little bit. The biggest offender definitely is back here on the arm, where you have this giant hole where his hands go in. Again, there's only so much you can do with these things, but it is just something to keep in mind when posing them and stuff, that you are going to have strange angles like this if you're not careful. Going back to the legs, you can see just how wonderfully these double jointed knees are sculpted out. Again, you see this all the time on the Decepticons. Almost all of them have legs like these, but Sideswipe's one of the few Autobots that has something like this going on. And of course, one of his most iconic features, the wheelie legs. I love how they're done, and I absolutely love the fact that in the movie he just has the wheels out like raw with no car pieces around them. For the figure, I love how they included these pieces that look completely natural, but you can use them really easily to act as supports while he's standing up. So you can always get him into really active poses, but you never have to worry about him really falling over unless these parts are really loose. It's a really smart decision, and again, it might detract a little bit from the accuracy, but I don't think it really takes away anything from the character itself, because it allows you to really pose this figure into these extreme poses that, again, you see Sideswipe in all the time because he's more of the action bot in the film. Looking a little bit at the back of him here, you do get a lot of kibble on his back, unfortunately. His backpack's pretty big, but it really doesn't take away much because he does have his little wings. You do still get these. They're not quite as posable as I'd like, but again, we'll talk about that in the next section. Or, the articulation section. But they're really cool. Every part of the car is really nicely sculpted out too. You can see a lot of it just on here before I transform it. Yeah, just an awesome, awesome looking robot form. Anyways, as far as the sculpt is concerned, this guy is definitely leaving with a 4. I really only have the few points of improvement just being these little hollow pieces. They have a lot of them, and I really feel like there are other ways they could have done this for the transformation, but I don't want to detract too much because I understand there are limitations with these types of toys. So I think he's taken back a solid 4 for this category. Getting in here into the colors and paint applications, this is another really strong point on this figure. I don't have the older figure from Dark of the Moon, but a lot of people did complain the plastic looked a lot more like plastic. This is supposed to be a giant car robot, and sometimes the way that they're molded out does definitely make a little bit more of the toy aspect apparent. With this guy, that is definitely not the case. He's still got this plasticky look to a lot of his legs and things like that, but they use a much darker sort of gunmetal gray color that really covers this up a lot. The painting over the main part of the car as well, it just has such an oomph to it that the other figure doesn't seem to have from any of the pictures that I've seen, that I really, really like it. Pretty much completely nails Sideswipe's look in the film as well. He does have this nice silver color. His alternate mode being a Stingray, you want that to look sleek and really cool, and he definitely nails that. There isn't a whole lot to say about the colors. You see chest is painted up beautifully. A lot of it is molded in just this regular plastic, and then the important car features are all painted up. The only few things that I will point out is on the car features that you can see. You will see this more in the vehicle mode a little later, but they're really well done. There's nothing that I can really complain about. The only thing that I am going to complain about is just that some of these leg pieces, the different colored plastic, it breaks up the design a little bit so it looks less like a toy, but it's still very much, if you're just staring at that, it very much looks like plastic. And I do think that that brings it down a little bit. Just based on pictures. Again, I don't have the other version of this figure, but I probably would put the other one somewhere in like a 2 or a 3. I think this version is definitely going to go home with a 4 again in this category as well. It's really good. It just feels like there's a couple of points that they skimmed out on that they really shouldn't have. It's great though for what it has, so I don't want to detract too much. So again, we're going to give this guy a 4 in this category. So looking here at the articulation for the final category in our reviews, you can see just starting with his legs, he's got those double knee joints, and just looking at the back here really quick too, he's got this little piston in here that moves in and out as you move the figure's legs, and I love that. It just adds some smoothness and some realism to the design and adds in a little extra level of detail that you just couldn't really do otherwise. I really like it. You also get this swivel at the thigh. Again, both of these double knee joints bend, and then going back again to the feet, you don't get any pivots in or out for the foot, but you do get these little car bits that work kind of like almost like toes or like locks or something to keep them in place. I discussed it earlier, but it allows you to get him into really dynamic poses and still maintain that sort of wheelie look to his feet. It's really cool. I love the way that they designed this. I can't see a better way to do this. Going back up, you can see he's got a little bit of a swivel at the waist. No crunch or anything, but that didn't seem like it was going to happen with how much kibble he's got on his back. His arms are limited by his shoulder pads, but again, it adds to the look of the figure, and you're not as limited as it looks like you're going to be, honestly. He's got an incredible range of motion with his shoulders, even despite these big old pads up here. His head moves up, down, side to side, and going back to the arms, he's of course got one at the elbow, and then his hands move in and out. The hands are probably the weakest point that I can point out for this, just because of the way that they're designed for the transformation and presumably for the way that the blades attach to them. They are very stiff. I do really wish that we had a little bit more movement in the hands, but you can make it work for him. It's not so limiting that it's something I hate about the figure or that really draws me away from it, but it is a little disappointing. I definitely won't lie about that. I do wish you can get him in slightly better poses with his blades, but like I said, the amount of posing that you can do with him is still incredible, even despite this limitation. Beyond that, you also have his little door wings on his back. You have a swivel up and down, and then a ball joint up here, but the way that the pieces are on there for the transformation, it is fairly limited. So a lot of the articulation on this guy is really good, and I am going to rate it a little higher just because of the level of posing you can get him in. Again, just the way that they design the figure, even the stiff parts, they give options to make it look like it has more movement than it really does. So I am going to give this guy a 3 in terms of articulation. It's good, but it definitely has areas where it could be better. I just absolutely love posing and playing around with the legs and the arms and everything. It's just, you can get him in all his iconic poses. It's just beyond that, it's a little hard to mess around with this guy. He is so much fun despite that though, and I really can't say enough how much I love messing around with the arms and legs on him. Just getting him into all these cool poses. Anyways though, let's get into the accessories because this guy does have a couple. So getting into the accessories really quick, I hesitate to even call these accessories, but first up is his most iconic weapon, these little hand blades. I hesitate to call them accessories because you need them for the transformation, so it's not really like an accessory so much as it is an essential part to the transformation part. But he comes with these guys. You can of course have them attached to the hands, or for storage, you can also attach them here onto his legs, which is a neat little feature. Basically, you have some flexibility with what you can do with these, but you're pretty much always going to have them on his hands. They're always going to be an essential part of Sideswipe, so I can't imagine many people are going to pose him without them, honestly, unless they're doing like a lineup. He also comes with these little blasters. You do see him use these, but again, they're not anywhere near as iconic as his hand blades, so they're really cool. I'm not going to give him any extra points for these accessories. The door blades are essential to the transformation, and the little blasters, while cool, are nothing to lose your mind over. But just so you know, those are the main accessories that he comes with. He also does come with this backdrop that all of the Studio Series Transformers come with. His depicts the scene like the warehouse where Sideways was when he did his brutal deed. But again, nothing crazy. I like the backdrops to pose in my display sometimes, but again, nothing that I'm losing my mind over, so he's not getting any extra points for them, but just so you know what he comes with. Just to shotgun some size comparisons, here we see him next to his good buddy Ironhide from the Autobots. For another Autobot, here is Bumblebee, just from the 15th anniversary set that came out recently. Here he is next to his #1 rival of all time, until he split him in half, Sideways. The Studio Series first movie, Megatron. RC, just to get one of the littler Transformers in there so you can get a better sense of his scale. And then for some non-Transformers, here is my Shin Godzilla Bandai figure. And finally, the HG IBO Barbados Lupus Rex. And now, the moment you have all been waiting for, I'm sure, the transformation of this little guy. So let's get right into it. So just to round out this review, Mr. Sideswipe has taken home a 4 in the detail and sculpt area. He's taking home a 4 in the color and paint applications, and he's taking home a 3 in the articulation. So that totaled up is 11 divided by 3 gives us 3.6, and I don't like decimals, so we are rounding him up to a 4, which I think is a great place to put him at. This figure is awesome. I know I've already said it a million times, but I can't not recommend this guy enough. If you like the Transformers movies, the live action, and you just want some more figures in your collection, this guy is going to blow you out of the water. He is definitely not perfect. He does have his flaws, but man, oh man, this is like one of those figures where I couldn't be happier that he's part of my collection. He's so cool. He's probably my favorite Autobot on my shelves other than Ironhide, but Ironhide's figure, I'll talk about it later. The articulation is utter trash on that figure. I love Ironhide so much from the live action films, but man, they did him dirty with the figure. It's just those bulky feet, and Sideswipe just doesn't have that problem at all. He has some limited articulation, but like, it's nowhere close to half of the other Transformers figures. It's really cool. So, if you're looking for links to this guy, I think he is still available on Big Bad Toy Store as of the time of this review. Otherwise, you're probably unfortunately going to be stuck checking on Amazon for some aftermarket prices, and eBay especially. Again, this guy is really good, so once he sells out of the main retailers, I can't imagine he's going to be the cheapest figure to acquire. But if you can get him, if you like Sideswipe, if you just want more Transformers figures, holy moly, get this guy. He's so cool. Thank you guys so much again for checking out this video. If you like my content, definitely subscribe. I do this stuff once a week, and I talk about dinosaurs, monsters, Transformers, giant robots, all the good stuff, everything that I like to collect. I also run an Instagram for the toy content. You can find that in the link tree down below. I have one specifically for my toys, and then one for my more personal stuff that I like to post on there, just pictures with friends and things like that. Definitely comment below as well if you have any recommendations, any things that you'd like to see, any suggestions, questions, anything like that. I definitely feel like out of all the topics that I cover on this channel, the Transformers content is probably my weakest, and I definitely want to hear from you guys what you think. If you like it, awesome. If not, let me know what you'd like to see more of, you know, be it size comparisons, a little bit more in depth with the transformations, anything like that. I'm definitely open to feedback. I love collecting these things. I love doing these videos. I'm going to be doing it regardless, but I prefer to make stuff that you guys like as well. So anything that you'd like to see more of, just let me know. Next time on the channel, we are going to be taking a look at Kamada-kun and Shinagawa-kun, the two early forms of Shin Godzilla. This is going to be the SH Monster Art series of figures, and these are figures I had wanted since the moment I saw them, but it took me a long time to get them because they were Japanese imports at the time, and they were way outside of my budget. But no longer, as of like 2 years ago. They are awesome. I can't wait to talk about them. You all know how much I love Godzilla. So I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much, and take care.